So for the second half of this session, Unique Opportunities in Biotech, we're delighted to welcome Squire Servance, the founder and managing partner of Syridex Bio. Squire is the founder and managing partner of Syridex Bio, which is a life sciences focused investment firm funding and developing therapies that accelerate global health equity. He oversees the firm's operations, growth strategy, investment decisions, and fundraising execution. He's had a fantastic career, previously serving as the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer for Repligen Corporation, where he was the Chief Legal Advisor to the President and CEO and the Board of Directors. And before that, he was the Associate General Counsel at Baxter International, where he was also Chief Legal Advisor. Squire's education in cell biology and biomedical engineering, his legal expertise and biotech experience grant him the acumen and insights into what is needed to take a medicine or medical device from R&D and clinical trials to FDA approval and into the market. So without further ado, here's Squire.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to really share my experiences today and my path in my career, and hopefully you'll find some things that are somewhat valuable that you can glean from my experiences and background. And so I was born and raised in New Jersey, and growing up, success from my family usually ultimately looked like if you were lawyer or doctor, right? And I give this context because as you hear more about my story, I ended up somewhat going in a little bit of both paths. But in sixth grade, I ultimately started doing a presentation on orthopedic surgeons. It was really tied to, wow, how much they made and how they got the chance to interact with athletes. And really in sixth grade, that assignment is what really piqued my interest in the life sciences. And so if you ultimately look at my career from that point on, it's really been in the life sciences space. And so to me, that's really one to show the power of good teachers and interesting projects, because that's really what piqued my interest. And when I started in sixth grade and then kind of going forward, I did heavily sciences in high school, and I ultimately went to Rutgers University. And I started Rutgers University, and my focus initially was in biology. And one of the things I kind of knew that I was like, well, look, what if I don't want to go to med school? What if I don't want to teach? I really wanted to expand my horizons and some of the options that I had. So I ultimately ended up going into biomedical engineering. And it was a great space because it coupled really real life experiences and real world skill sets that if I ended up not going to med school, getting my PhD, I can go work and practice in the industry. And so it was a great intersection of kind of engineering, biology, and then I was taking some courses in this space. And ultimately, I got excited and really interested in really the neurology side of things. And so I ended up adding a second major, cell biology and neuroscience. Did some amazing work with some amazing professors when I was an undergraduate, and did some really strong work in around Parkinson's patients, and wrote some code to measure different microelectrode recordings in different wavelengths and trying to understand where we can lesion parts of specific brains to stop tremors. And that work was really, really exciting to me. And I was going through this process and taking these courses, and the goal was to go to medical school and become an orthopedic surgeon still. But I ultimately, probably around my junior year, decided that I would say that path wasn't right for me. I spoke with a number of doctors. I was studying for the MCAT at the time. And ultimately, I decided to kind of not go to med school, but then I really didn't know what to do. And going back to my point earlier around where my kind of growing up, what I what I knew to be success from my family was around law or medicine, I switched from med school and I ended up applying to law school. And I applied to law school at the very last possible date you could actually take it. You could do it. So I took the exam the end of December in my senior year. And I felt like that was a good fit. Now, I'll pause there for a second to share, law it wasn't out of the scope. I knew it growing up. My mother was a judge. My father had his law degree. I have a number of family members in law enforcement. And so I knew the law relatively well. And so I thought it was a good move for me. And I knew that I could still use my science background to at least do patent law really well, write patents, protect innovations, and work with companies at the forefront of new technologies and new science. And I knew it was a great way to marry my love for the science still, but take it into this new career path. And so I ended up applying to law school and getting in at, I ended up going to Duke University Law School. And it was a great, great experience. And what I found there was that science and the engineering way of thinking that I learned as an undergraduate translated really well to the study and the practice of law. It's really about identifying problems, breaking them into its different components, digging down at each one of those pieces, understanding what the true issue is, fix it, and then building back up into a synthesized analysis and conclusion that kind of connected the dots. And while we did that in science and engineering, it translated well. We're just using text and case law now as a lawyer to do those types of things. And so I felt like that my background really helped me. And I didn't know this, truthfully, I didn't know that would be the case going in. I just wanted to go out and combine what I was doing from the science side into the practice of law, but it ultimately worked out really well. And while I was there, I ultimately decided to get my business degree, my MBA. It was an extra year. And, one of the things you learn in the law is that a lot of times it's a means to an end. So there's a business decision that happens, and you ultimately need to then kind of bring in the lawyers to kind of execute on the business decision. And I wanted to understand the business side of things. And so I thought that MBA would be really helpful in understanding that. And so I ended up getting that, and where I focused in corporate finance. And so really around the numbers, but I did get a certificate in health sector management. And so if you look at my career, it's at least my educational career too. So to date, it was the science, and then it was law, and then it was business. And that combination really is the grounding for my professional career to date. Because I initially graduated, and then I went to I clerked for a year in Oklahoma City in the Court of Appeals. But then my first true, I would say, private sector job was at a law firm working as a patent attorney, and it was great. It was exactly what I thought it would be. I'm writing patents, working with innovators, and it was great to see another path where I'm working. Most of my colleagues either have a master's or PhDs in a variety of different areas. I'm working with really, really sharp people, working at the forefront innovation and technology, and then really combining my efforts to really help companies protect these innovations, and which ultimately, just at a high level, kind of helps, patent law and that realm really helps society, I think, as a whole, because it gives people an incentive to innovate. And so being a part of that system really gave me a good feeling and good comfort that what I was doing was meaningful, right? And so I ultimately did this for a number of years. And one of the things you'll find, and I give you this journey to show that you ultimately have a goal, but it can pivot, but you can still use what you learned in whether your educational career, professional career, to do something a little bit different, and those skill sets are transferable. And so I practiced at the law firm for a number of years, and I ultimately transitioned from doing more intellectual property, writing patent work, to doing deal work. And one of the things that I noticed when I was doing the transactions is that the true power of advancing innovation and technology a lot of times lay with those that were investing, that were directing the money. And so early on in my legal career, I saw this, and I wanted to get on a path to ultimately get into venture or private equity or some type of investing. And I had a mentor in this space who ran a firm, a life sciences venture firm in Philadelphia. And, the advice they gave me was, if you want to get into this space, you want to be at the forefront of investing in technologies and innovations in the life sciences space, you should go in-house and work for companies, build a track record of doing deals, and expand and continue to grow your skill sets on identifying and doing deals. And so that's what I ultimately ended up doing. I ended up working at the law firm for 6-7 years, going in-house to my first role was at Dr. Reddy's. I was on the legal side, but I was working for their business development team. And that's where I really came in, and I started being able to flex everything I've learned to date: the science, the business, the legal, the patents. All of that came to a head at that role. And I was able to kind of talk with the business and understanding and identifying assets, which ones made the most sense, figure out which ones didn't, getting into the weeds of diligencing assets and identifying where there are holes, where there are gaps, why this makes sense, why this doesn't. And I got a chance to begin to do a lot more business-minded, I would say, legal work and identifying assets and acquiring them. And so if you look at my career from my tail end of my law firm going in-house, I ended up going to ultimately 3 different spots in-house. And so I spent some time at Baxter. I was head of legal for essentially head of legal for their $2 billion pharmaceutical business. And in that role, I was, obviously charged with managing the team and the legal team on that side, but also helping to grow the business inorganically through acquisitions. And so we did a lot of work there through acquisitions. And in that between, I don't know, 10, 12 years into my career at this point. And by ultimately left Baxter to become general counsel and corporate secretary of a public life sciences company called Repligen out in the Boston area. And again, similarly, this is a company that's highly acquisitive, and I had experience doing deals, and I ended up working there for a little bit. And then kind of really COVID hit. Now I'm in the middle of COVID now. And this is to me, is a pivotal time for me, right? We get to a point in just in life and society where, growing up growing up Black and having the conversations in my family, we always knew that inequities existed, right? Particularly health inequities. COVID, I think, really kind of ripped the veil back to me for society, where it was talked about more so on TV and the news for a good period of time, where it was really hard to hide it, right? So you had to have that discussion about why certain groups are more likely to get hospitalized, more likely to die, more likely to catch particular COVID. And so my idea of ultimately wanting to run a venture fund started to kind of coalesce around, can I come up with a business model that makes sense, that can address health inequities? And that really spun into what I'm doing today. Syridex is it's an investment firm, a biopharma investment firm, where we are focused on making early stage venture creation type investments in innovative therapies, specifically therapies that treat diseases that disproportionately impact underserved communities, right? So we're like a traditional firm in a sense, where we make investments in a variety of different areas, but the way we target investments is we start with where's there a health disparity. And we have a number of criteria that we kind of look through to do that. And then we figure out what diseases they are, and if there's any innovative technologies that we can either repurpose, continue to develop, accelerate, that can be useful for that specific disease. And our hope is that to get new therapies for this particular group of diseases. And we think, look, if we execute on our thesis correctly, I will think you'll make obviously strong returns for investors, but also we'll be able to accelerate health equity, which to me is trying to close health disparity gaps, the ability for everyone to have a fair and just opportunity to attain a healthy level of living, right? That's at the end of the day. I think ultimately, if anyone's listening to this, that's in the sciences, hard PhD, MD, that wants to think outside the box and go into different areas, legal, corporate, investment, financial, you can do that with your background, because a lot of times, at least from my perspective, the true value of these advanced degrees or the science degrees, while it is some of the hard science that you're studying, it's really about how you think about things, and that's the skill set that's transferable in a variety of different professions. So I encourage each of you to really, if you're thinking about doing other things, chart your own course. This is your life, and make calculated decisions and get the best advice from folks. But I think you can do it, and it takes again, it's somewhat of risk at times, but reality is no risk, no reward. So I encourage each of you that are thinking about transitioning or doing something different, you can do it, and to go out and be the change and be the change you want to see in society and have the impact that you want to have, and leverage your background the way you can do it and the way society will let you.
Thank you so much, Squire Servance from Syridex Bio. That was a fascinating presentation. And our thanks, of course, also to Karina and Marina, our guests in the first half of this session, Unique Opportunities in Biotech. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Kevin Davis. Stay tuned now as the Rosalind Franklin Society annual meeting continues.